Greetings, this is August 18th in the evening. These are images from Sonoka Beach on Okanagan Lake earlier today. It looks like a little bit of haze in the air, difficult to see today over to the eastern shore. And there's somebody out paddling. Probably a good day to have a compass if you're out in the middle of the lake. And noticeably very little wind in many areas. However, the Okanagan was not the only region under a dense cloud of particulate matter. This is the cam from Big Bar up in Gold Country. We're looking north towards the chasm. A lot of smoke in the air. It's just hanging around, sitting in low areas. We can get up to the Begbie cam, look north towards 100 Mile House, and a little clearer, but smoke is off in the distance. And now we are looking at the Great Bear Snow Shed on the Coquihalla Highway. The image from yesterday or a couple days ago, beautiful sunny sky. Now it almost looks like a foggy day midwinter. This is the Sheridan cam on Highway 24. We're looking west towards 93 Mile House, and a bit of haze in there, clearer than some of these other images. But let's jump way down to White Rock, Tawasin. It almost looks breathable there. That's because they were getting a little bit of southwest breeze bringing in some ocean air, and this exemplifies how much wind change there's been in all areas of the province. Now we're on Highway 19, Vancouver Island, close to Buckley Bay Road. The wind was coming down from the north on the island, and it appears like there's haze in the distance from some of those fires that are in the northern part of Vancouver Island. So check out Drive BC. The link is in the description below. Whether you're traveling, you're looking for the alerts and warnings on the roadways, or if you just want to see around the province and get a view of what's going on and different conditions at different places. It's a great system. And here we have a bit of sunshine. It looks like it's raining through. This is Highway 28, Gold River looking west. Let's jump over to the NRC data and look at infrared for today, just to see if there's any growth, and this is going to depend on wind conditions. There's been a bit of a shift today. It's coming from the north, northwest, and that may actually benefit wildfire crews as they're able to perhaps do some backburning, pre-ignition, and get these fires to go back on themselves with the aid of northern and northwest winds. We're looking at a screen of Telegraph Crk. This is the infrared for today at 4:44 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Opportunity to see where hotspots are, what is active, and we can also see what looks like some patterning, some control signatures over top of random clusters. Now we're going to jump a little ways east to Highway 97, Upper Laird, Lower Post. We can see Cassiar in the lower left of the screen. A lot of activity, a lot of heat being generated here and all around the outside edges, primarily pushing to the east, and we're looking at 30,000 hectares in the lower fire, 23,000 hectares in the fire just to the north. Zooming in, we can see a lot of infrared control signatures over these similar random clusters. It looks like most of the intensity over the last day has been in this northern patch to the eastern flank, and then the southwestern flank is also quite busy. Then in the far northeast, one of the prettiest parts of the province, we are looking north of Fort St. John and east of Fort Nelson. One fire there, over 20,000 hectares, and another large fire further north, over 16,000 hectares. This one was started August 2nd, and the lower fire was started August 6th. Let's move quickly down to Highway 16. We're looking at the area around Fraser Lake, Francois Lake. This is the Shovel Lake fire, the island fire, There's another fire at the lower portion of the screen at the Castlegar Lake, and to the lower left, that's around Tekizi Lake, and it's kind of surrounding the Unshaw Red Hills Provincial Park. I'm seeing some infrared control signatures approximately 7 kilometers south of Unshaw Lake, and that could be due to these northwestern breezes, perhaps affording wildfire crews an opportunity to employ some control strategy on that block of fire that's south of Unshaw Lake. And keep in mind, these infrared hotspots can be off 500 meters to a kilometer, so it's difficult to gauge their exact location, but it gives us an indication of where heat is coming from. Over to an image of Fraser Lake at the east end of Francois Lake. This is the Shovel Lake fire, and we'll zoom in and take a look at that eastern flank and see what sort of activity has been going on there. The winds have been prevalent from the west, and it's pushed this fire eastward. Crews were able to establish guards to prevent southeastern movement of the fire flanks towards Fort Fraser, but I am seeing a lot of volatility. There's a lot of activity going on in that region right now. Looks like quite a battle going on with this fire. We're moving over to the western edge of Francois Lake. This is the Nadina fire. Nadina Mountain is to the northwest, and here we can see where the fire is burning around the perimeter, looking for new fuel in all directions. Primarily, motion has been to the east between the Nechako Reservoir and Francois Lake, but it's also volatile on all these other edges. We're now going directly south. This is the fire at Tweedsmuir South. Actually, it's a complex of multiple fires, and it's a modified response, meaning that nature is kind of taking its course as it's being monitored. We were looking at this on the RSAC radiative infrared, and it was throwing off a lot of heat, very volatile on those eastern edges and in those fire pockets. We're moving eastwards. This is the Fraser Plateau, north end of the Cariboo. Looking over to Quesnel, I'm not seeing any infrared to the southwest there. We do have these other fire pockets around Nazco and Punchaw. They've been relatively stable, kind of aging in place, watching those for growth. And Nazco went through quite an extreme wildfire season last year. One of the largest fires in BC happened in this region. Likewise, the area that we're looking at right now, this is where the Elephant Hill wildfire occurred, and the fires around Williams Lake, 100 Mile House, very volatile last year. This year, doing much better, a little moister, a little cooler, and it's nice to see a screen with almost no infrared in their area. However, there are fires being monitored here. Wild Goose Lake, over at Young Lake, south of Buffalo Lake. So it's still an active fire zone, and I highly recommend going to the BC Wildfire link below. Check on their map for new wildfire starts, for evacuation alerts and orders, and check Drive BC to make sure all your routes are clear. There's been mudslides in this region as well. Now we're moving south all the way to the border. This is the area around Princeton, Keremeos, Headley, Olalla. We can see that large patch of infrared. That's a fire near Eastgate, Manning Park. That's grown in a northerly direction. It looks like controlled infrared is surrounding the fire perimeter. Crews are working on that one. And also the Olalla fire, it's looking hot. I'm not seeing any additional spread in the Olalla fire, and the Keremeos fire seems to be staying put as well. That's a good sign. Looking for new growth, a couple, 3 hot spots moving to the northwest of the Olalla fire. Likewise, moving to the north on the Eastgate fire, and Keremeos, it appears all within the perimeter. So a lowered amount of activity in the recent scans. Now we're moving over to the Lower Arrow Lake, Christina Lake, right down on the border, and Castlegar area. These are fires to the west of Castlegar. They've been rather hot. A lot of infrared, a lot of new infrared being generated there. I am seeing some growth on the Christina fire moving northwards, and as you can see in this terrain map, we're starting to move into very rugged mountainous terrain, and there's going to be a lot of wind variation depending whether you're on a ridge or you're down in some of these gullies. So a difficult area to access and difficult to fight a wildfire in some of these slopes. We are moving further east again. This is Slocan Lake. We're looking at Silverton, New Denver, and there's this fire activity to the east of the lake. It's up in the mountains, and there's another one. It's further north on the western side of Highway 6. That's actually more of a concern for me because of the prevailing winds moving from west to east. So we'll have to watch that one as well in case that starts to affect access into the area. We're back on Highway 3, moving eastwards towards Creston. These are two fires. We're looking at the most recent infrared for the last 24 hours. The one closer to Creston, that appears to have gone across the highway to the south. Again, infrared could be off 500 meters to a kilometer. There's a few hot spots that are moving west outside the fire perimeter. This is a computer generated perimeter, and not as much activity moving up the south slope of Kootenay Mountain, but a lot of activity or volatility around the highway itself. So check Drive BC for road closures. There might be delays, and you want to have your routes planned ahead of time. Still moving east, we are looking at the Meechin fire and that valley that's on the northern slope of Mount Evans. Fire has come down this gorge. It's headed towards St. Mary's Lake, but it appears to be stopped. There is fire indications going over the ridge line to the north, but I'm not seeing any more progress eastwards. That's a good sign. Winds are in this area right now. They're coming more from the north-northwest, official in keeping it away from Kimberley and the communities around there. There's also very rugged terrain, and infrared may be obscured by smoke, haze, so we may not be getting all the data. So check with BC Wildfire, see if they've got any updates. If you're in those communities or you're traveling in that area, there is an evacuation order for the valley around St. Mary's Lake. We're moving north now between the Purcells and the Rockies, looking at a fire around Radium and another one around Golden. Monitoring these, I'm not seeing a lot of movement. They don't seem to move as quick in the mountains as they do out on the windswept plateaus and the prairies. We're going to zoom into Golden here. I'm seeing a couple of infrared that have crossed the highway and gone to the southwest. They may be indicated in the wrong position, but it lets us know that there's volatility there and there appears to be an expansion. This fire is along Highway 1 on the route going into Banff and Alberta. Check with Drive BC. There may be temporary delays, and I'll keep checking back on this fire to see where that infrared is going. This screen is showing new infrared in the last 6 hours before this update, and I see 3 infrared hotspots just to the north of Highway 1. It appears to be going up the mountainside, so there is volatility there. Let's go to Windy now. Check the very diverse conditions, ever-changing airflow masses that are across the province. It makes it very difficult to predict which of those fire flanks or fire perimeters are going to be the most active. We're zooming into the center of the province, and the general airflow appears to be coming from the northwest, moving to the southeast. A general western flow is also predominant. Here we're looking at the area around Endako, Fraser Lake. 4 kilometers an hour coming from the southwest. Then just a few kilometers away, it's coming from the north at 3 kilometers an hour. If we look down at the chasm, it's coming from the north at 7 kilometers an hour. Around Kimberley, St. Mary's Lake, 4 kilometers an hour coming from the northwest. Over at Eastgate, Princeton, 6 kilometers an hour coming from the north. Vancouver Island, coming from the northwest, 7 kilometers an hour. And finally down in the lower mainland, coming from the southwest, 8 kilometers an hour. Depending on where you are in the province, it's going to be different. And likewise, these ever-changing winds at low velocity may actually be benefiting wildfire crews because they can work their way around the perimeter, do backburns, and have the fire kind of consume itself and then switch over to the other flank and work back again. So we want to be prepared in these conditions, have our resources ready, have our routes planned, know what we're going to do if a wind does pick up and blows fire flanks towards us. Be very safe, everyone. It's an active wildfire season. We're heading into the end of August. There's going to be a few more weeks of this. Keep your nose to the breeze, and thank you very much for watching.